All information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not consider your individual circumstances. You should consider the appropriateness of this information with regards to your individual objectives, financial situation, and needs. Welcome to Sharing More Than the Sheets, a podcast to help you and your partner make better financial and lifestyle decisions so that you can both focus on the things that you love. I'm your host, Michael Khouri, financial planner, green thumb, husband, and just dad. If you've ever played Spotto in the car with your parents or with your kids, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that don't know, there's a game called Spotto that's played in the car. And the way the game Spotto works is you basically could be driving to a destination. With me and my kids, it's usually driving to school. And you just look out for a yellow car. And the first person that says Spotto on a particular car gets a point. Now, there are a few rules. Every family has its own house rules. But for example, in our family, you can't say Spotto to a car that's got writing on it. Secondly, it needs to be actually yellow. It needs to be fully yellow, and the car needs to be moving. It can't be just a parked car. And it's actually really fun. Now, it can be a little bit dangerous if you're the driver playing Spotto and you're not focusing on the road. So I recommend that you do, that you're very cautious if you're the driver and you become very competitive with your 6 and 8 year old and 11-year-old children, if you could relate to me. But it's actually a pretty fun game. And to be honest with you, I only do it to keep the kids occupied. Otherwise, they'll end up arguing and throwing things at each other and WWE wrestling on the back seat of the car. So as far as our car is concerned, as far as Spotto is concerned, it's a fun game. We've been playing it a lot. And it really got me thinking to how it relates to money. Because lately, and for me, I think anyone that's played Spotto can relate to this. But even if the kids aren't with me in the car, as soon as I see a yellow car, I think Spotto. If I'm driving by myself on the road, I see a yellow car, I actually get excited when I see 2 yellow cars. I'm like, Spotto, that's double points. Then I obviously figure out that no one's sitting with me in the car. Now, what point am I trying to make? The point I'm trying to make is when you're used to looking at something, or when you're used to having something basically on your radar, on your mental radar, you usually can't unsee it. Now, there's something called a reticular activating system, an RAS, which is a network of neurons located in the brainstem that project anteriorly, I haven't even said that word properly, to the hypothalamus, which I haven't even said properly, to mediate behavior, as well as both posteriorly, which I haven't said properly either, to the thalamus and directly to the cortex for activation of awake, desynchronized cortical EEG patterns. Now, I've just read that straight off Google. But my point is that it's a system in our brain that essentially, where it's to do with how our brains are wired. And if we constantly look at something, or if we're looking at something in particular, or we have constant exposure to something, we're more likely to recognize it when it passes by. It's like anything. It's like if you decide to buy a four-wheel drive and you spend your weeks looking at four-wheel drives, when you see them on the road, you're going to notice them a lot more. Now, how does this relate to money? Now, to me, it really got me thinking, because as a financial advisor, I know for a fact that when I'm talking to my clients about money, when I'm giving them advice, when we're having at least annual reviews or we're in discussions about different parts of their lives, they tell me that they are more likely to monitor their spending and monitor their financial decisions compared to if we weren't having those discussions. And it really brings home a very important point where, whether it's health, whether it's money, if we are talking about it, if in a relationship, if you're talking about it to your partner, if you're talking to your financial advisor about money, if you're surrounding yourself with the right people, like a good accountant as well, you're more likely to recognize mistakes that you could be making with your money, or you're more likely to try to make better decisions with your money, because money is suddenly on your radar. You're thinking about things. You're thinking about spending. You have a budget that you follow, for example, which makes sure that money is always at the top of your mind. It may not, I've always said this, it's not the most important thing, but it should always be there. You can't just ignore money unless you've got an unlimited supply of it. You need to always know what you're doing. And as I said, it could be something that you're doing right. It could be something that you're doing wrong. It could be something that you're doing and it could probably be done better. or it's probably something that you're not doing that you should be focusing on. And the value in having an advisor, the value in talking to someone regularly about these things like money, will just mean that your reticular activating system will always be, it will be working. And when you're making certain decisions, even going on a holiday, for example, instead of thinking, hey, where are we going to go on a holiday? Let's book it. Yep, let's do this. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do Spain. Let's do blah, blah, blah. You're first thinking, well, hold on a second. What's our budget? How much can we financially afford to spend on a holiday? And let's see what fits within that budget instead of doing it the other way around. And the other part about the idea of thinking about these things as well is when it's at least front of mind to an extent, instead of being back of mind, and it's probably the last thing that you're thinking about, you're more likely as well to try to be more efficient with your money, more efficient with the way that you're doing things and the decisions that you're making and the discussions that you're having with your partner, compared to just being as reactive as possible and just dealing with bills as they pop up and, oh, let's go on the holiday, we'll work out how to pay for it later, or, things like that. So for me, it was, again, it's big. It's been a big part of, we've been playing it constantly for 4 weeks, and I can honestly say that for 4 weeks, I've nonstop seen yellow cars. We did the same thing last year. We stopped, and I can tell you now, I think 6 months passed, and I did not, yellow cars were not on my radar. So even if you want to test it out, try playing Spotto with your kids, try to look out for yellow cars, then stop playing for 2 or 3 weeks, and you'll see what I mean. You'll notice that for the first week, you'll still be looking out for yellow cars, but then eventually it'll just go straight over your head, and you can drive for 6 hours and someone will ask you, did you see a single yellow car? And you'll say, look, I don't know. I wasn't looking out for it because it wasn't on your radar. It wasn't something that you're thinking about. So there we go. Who would have thought that a game of Spotto could relate to our finances and our personal life decisions? And trust Michael Khouri to somehow work out some way to piece the two things together. I hope you've learned something from this episode. Please continue to send me through messages. When you send me through messages, even feedback, questions, it all makes a big difference, and it's really helping me piece these episodes together. For me, I enjoy doing the podcast. I love doing this every week. My only issue lately has been coming up with things to talk about, which in a way, something seems to pop up because I'm having at least 10 discussions, if not 30 discussions a week with clients. So as I'm talking to clients, I think of discussions to talk about because my reticular activating system's on. There we are. There's another little connection to the topic of the episode. But please send through questions, ideas, topics, everything, because if you ask me questions, I'm able to answer them, I'm able to discuss them, and I'm able to hopefully help you and your family make better decisions so that you can focus on the things that you love. Thanks for joining us on Sharing More Than the Sheets. Please make sure you subscribe to be updated with future episode releases, and feel free to share this episode with any friends or family that you think it might benefit. Please visit us at sharingmorethanthesheets.com.au to submit questions or requests for future podcast topics. These podcasts have been brought to you by Better Financial Planning Australia. To book a 15-minute phone chat, visit betterfinancialplanning.com.au.